Peace be with you. Welcome to the Institute of All Intelligent Life. My name is Ali Muhammad Kartar Puri, also known as Allan Keislar, and we are continuing our seeking guidance from God through the Holy Scriptures, and we are going to begin again by reading the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. We are now reading the first verse of the second section of the Guru Granth Sahib. By thinking, he cannot be reduced to thought, even by thinking hundreds of thousands of times. By remaining silent, inner silence is not obtained, even by remaining lovingly absorbed deep within. The hunger of the hungry is not appeased, even by piling up loads of worldly goods. Hundreds of thousands of clever tricks, but not even one of them will go along with you in the end. So how can you become truthful? And how can the veil of illusion be torn away? O Nanak, it is written that you shall obey the Hukam of His Command and walk in the way of His will. Wow, this is beautiful and very deep. Of course, it's even more beautiful in the Punjabi. So I'm just going to, because I love this verse, or this section of the Guru Granth Sahib, so I'm going to read the Punjabi also. Soche soch na hoi je sochi lakkavar, chupe chup na hoi je laye lihar ye utar, pukiya pukka na utri je banna puriya par. Sahasya pha lakh hoi te ik na chale naal, kyun sachiara hoye, kyun tutte pal, hukam rezai chalna, nanaka likiya naal, hukam rezai chalna. So how can we become truthful, and how can we become free from our illusion? How can we get out of this matrix that we are trapped within, a matrix upon a matrix? This illusion, simple. The answer is simple. Hukum azai chalna. Simply accept, obey the hukum, the will, the command, the guidance of God. So it's a wonderful description of God here. We had just been reading yesterday the description of God as true from all eternity until all eternity, in the past and now in the future. So now we are reading how God cannot be reduced to thought. We cannot, no matter how much lakkavar, hundreds of thousands of times we may think, try to figure out God, we will never be able to do it. Or, okay, we can't figure out God by thinking, we can remain silent and meditate. But even by remaining silent, we will not achieve God. We will not achieve real silence and understanding of God. And then Baba Guru Nanak says, Pukiya pukka na utri, jebanna puriya par. No matter how much we accumulate in this world, our hunger will not be satisfied. And sasyapa lakhoi, even if we achieve or acquire hundreds of thousands of, sahas also means thousands, syapa, clever tricks is the translation given here. Even if we become the most expert in so many areas of human achievement, they will all be ended at death. Ikkana chalena, not one will go along with us. So then, what can we do to become truthful? How can we become truthful? How can we become free? Kyun means how, actually. Kyun kudhe tutte paal. How can we become free from this illusion? How can we tear away the bondage of illusion, of deceit? We're all trapped in deceit, our own deceitfulness, and especially the deceitfulness of mass media, the deceitfulness of institutions, including religious institutions. There's only one thing, that is, obey the order of God. And God is in our heart. He is always there guiding us. So we just have to become purified enough that we can hear the order of God in our heart. And until we can be sure, we had this discussion over the last couple of days also, until we can be sure that we are hearing the voice of God properly, the hukum within our heart, the order, we need the help of a guru. We need the help of a murshid. We need the help of a spiritual guide. And by his or her training, our hearts will become pacified and purified so that we can actually hear the voice of God correctly in our hearts. That is the whole process which Baba Nanak, Guru Nanak Dev, has so expertly summarized here in this first verse of the second section of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. Just like the Holy Quran has Al-Fatiha, the first chapter, first section of the Quran, the Guru Granth Sahib also has the first section, which was the Mool Mantra, which we read the last 2 days. Okay, this is amazing knowledge we're getting here. Then we will turn to the Holy Quran. We are reading today the 10th and 11th verses of chapter 26, Shu'ara, or the poets. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Behold, your Lord called Moses, go to the people of iniquity, the people of Pharaoh. Will they not fear Allah? So Allah spoke to Moses. Moses could hear the voice of God in him. And the Lord said, go to the people of Pharaoh. Although they are people of iniquity, will they not fear Allah? Ultimately, everyone has to fear Allah. So we know in the story of Moses going to the people of Pharaoh how again and again he warned them that there would be a disaster if they didn't let the people of Israel leave from their slavery in Egypt. So Pharaoh said he would do it, but then he went back on his word. And finally, the disaster became intolerable. The firstborn son of each household died, as Moses had warned. So then Pharaoh let them go. But even then, after he had let them all leave, he changed his mind again. So he feared Allah again and again, but then he went back on his fear. And by the advice of his bad counselors and by his own twisted awareness, his own twisted heart, his own crookedness, he went back on his promises. But in the end, the people of Egypt, the Pharaoh and his armies, saw what happens if you don't fear Allah, and the entire army of Pharaoh was drowned. So this, in the end, they had to fear Allah. So they would fear Allah in the end, but it took a while. So this is what's happening in the world right now also. People are forgetful of Allah. They are absorbed in their illusions, thinking they will become happy or successful, either as individuals or as nations, by following their own plans and their own desires. But in the end, we will all have to surrender to Allah and accept the guidance that He is giving us through the Holy Scriptures and through the saints and through the prophets, through our own hearts, that perfect, expert, wonderful guidance. So we are getting some here through these Scriptures. And we will continue to read next the Bible, the Holy Bible, the book of Ezekiel. We are reading today the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1. Let's see, verse 11. Such were their faces, and their wings were spread. Spread out above. Each creature had 2 wings, each of which touched the wing of another, while 2 covered their bodies. So we had read how these angelic creatures, or as I call them, extraterrestrials, they had 4 wings, and 2 of their wings were spread up above, and 2 were down, covering their bodies. And each of the 2 wings that were spread out touched the wing of the being who was next to them. So we are... Somebody asked a very good question yesterday about the 4 faces, because each of these creatures not only had 4 wings, but also had 4 faces: a human face, a lion's face, an ox's face, and an eagle's face. And so somebody asked, what does that mean? What is the symbolism of these faces? So I did a little research yesterday, and there are many different opinions about them. Actually, as I had mentioned the first day when we read about those 4 faces, these are also the 4 creatures that are mentioned as identified with the 4 authors of the 4 Gospels. And these 4, they're not 4 creatures each of having 4 faces, but 4 creatures each of having 1 face, mentioned in the book of Revelation, in the Bible, the last book in the Bible, the book of St. John of Patmos. And St. John wrote about seeing there also, just like Ezekiel is seeing a vision here, in which he saw 4 creatures. One had the face of a human being, one had the face of a lion, one had the face of an ox, and one had the face of an eagle. So what is the meaning of these? Well, I really don't know if we should take this only as symbolism, which is what most Christian commentaries seem to indicate, that this is just a vision that Ezekiel had, which wasn't a reality somehow. It simply meant something. And my own tendency is to think that Ezekiel actually saw these creatures, and he just described what he saw, and it wasn't that they were only symbols of something, they were actually beings who had that appearance. So what is the meaning of all those symbols? Well, lion means strength, ox means patience and, working steadily. Eagle means having great vision and being able to ascend to high heights, great heights. And of course, the first face of a human being represents human wisdom and intelligence usually. So whatever the meaning may be, the symbolism may be, there are different opinions of different commentators. I prefer to take it just that that's the way they looked. That's the way they are. They have 4 wings and they have 4 faces. And God made them that way. So they may just be symbols, but I don't take it that way. Anyway, in this verse we're reading about the wings, and again we can derive some meaning from the fact that the wings of each one touched the wing of the being next to him or her. We don't really know, I think, if they have any male or female characteristics, or they are hermaphrodites, neither male or female, or both male and female. In any case, these beings are totally covered. Their bodies are covered by two wings, and the other two wings are stretching upwards. So, I don't really know what more I should say about this, except to repeat what I have said before, that in my opinion, these are extraterrestrial beings. They are beings that live on some other planet, probably some heavenly planet, perhaps some place where God lives in some form or the other, some way or the other. God is present in front of his throne. These creatures live there, or they stay there, and they go out, obviously, on his order to undertake certain tasks, in this case giving a message to Ezekiel. So this is a very interesting book, this book of Ezekiel, because it's quite clear, as we will be reading, that these are not only extraterrestrial beings, but they have extraterrestrial craft, flying saucers. We'll read actually descriptions of flying saucers later in this chapter. Okay, we're going to go on to the Dhammapada. In the Dhammapada, the next verse is verse 16 of chapter 10. Like a thoroughbred horse touched by the whip, even so be strenuous and zealous by confidence, by virtue, by effort, by concentration, by investigation of the truth, by being endowed with knowledge and conduct, and by being mindful, get rid of this great suffering. So this is actually the main message of the Buddha. Hazrat Buddha alayhi salam, I like to say, great prophet and teacher and sage, a messenger of God as I understand it. He is teaching us how to get rid of suffering. That is the summation, the main purpose of the Buddha's teaching. He taught that everyone is suffering, so everyone wants to get rid of suffering, but people don't know how to do it. They're trying the wrong ways to do it, as we've been reading, from austerities and trying different processes, but those don't work. It has to be, as described here, by being very, very virtuous and making efforts, by concentration and meditation, by investigation of the truth, sincerely seeking the truth. Investigating the truth means not just accepting what we are taught by, even by religious leaders or by teachers in school or by parents even. Of course, we always respect our parents and teachers, religious leaders, but they may be mistaken on some points. So we have to investigate the truth ourselves, and by being mindful. That's a very, very important teaching, especially in the Buddhist tradition, to be mindful, to become aware of what's going on, and don't just, like most people actually, they're not aware really of what they're doing. They're just going through life without even stopping to think, what is the purpose of all of this? Why am I here? And becoming reflective. So, and as the verse begins, the last verse talked about a thoroughbred horse and the whip. So a thoroughbred horse is so well trained that the horse rider or trainer does not need to whip the horse, as most horses have to be whipped. If you've been in a place, as I was in my childhood, in Lahore, where there were tangas and horse-driven carriages, and all the time the drivers would whip the horses to get them to go faster. Even a thoroughbred horse sometimes might be whipped. But If a thoroughbred horse is whipped, it immediately responds with great effort. So be strenuous and zealous in your efforts, the Buddha is teaching. We should not take these things lightly. We have to realize that we must be very diligent, hardworking, even zealous, enthusiastic in our efforts to understand the truth and achieve the truth. Okay, we will move now to the Bhagavad Gita. We're reading from chapter 5, and today we have come to text 17. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So this is an assurance. We may have doubts. In the modern world, we're filled with doubts, especially because of all the mass media propaganda, the educational propaganda, the political propaganda, the mass educational and whole economic system of the world. There's so much false guidance given to us all. So everyone is being plagued with doubts. Of course, we read just a couple of days ago the Buddha teaching about needing to be free from doubts. So how do we become free from doubts? Here we are being instructed. Our intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge must all be fixed in the Supreme. We must fix our minds on God. We must have faith in God. We must take refuge of God. Audu bilahi min shaitan nirajim. Audu bika min nadabil jahannam min nadabil kabri min shari fitnatil mamat wa min shari fitnatil masih dajjal. That's the main one. We must take shelter in God, in the Supreme, and take refuge in God from the temptations of the accursed Satan and from Masih Dajjal, the false prophet or the Antichrist. Dajjal is also a Messiah. He's the false Messiah. And I don't know who that person is, but I'm quite sure that Dajjal actually means a person, but whether it is an individual person or not, I don't know, but it certainly is a system, which we are seeing in the world today, becoming more and more powerful. The system is, the Dajjali system, is the system of deceit, misleading us, controlled by selfish and satanic forces. The internet is a great blessing from God, that we can all communicate all over the world instantly, but at the same time we know that this internet, Facebook also, YouTube also, all these channels are being controlled. And if somebody goes too far off what those controllers want, and they delete their account, or they block it, or they minimize it in one way or another. And those people that are giving false information according to the desires of the Dajjali agents, they get more and more shares automatically. The system promotes them. So this system that we are living in is the Dajjali system. So it's very, very important that we fix our minds on Allah, fix our intelligence, our faith and refuge. We take refuge in Allah, the Supreme. And what happens when we do that? Just as we were reading from Baba Nanak, Guru Nanak's teaching, Hukam Rizai Chalna, Nanak Likya Nal. If we just take refuge in the order of God, the Hukum, then we will become, the Bhagavad Gita says, fully cleansed of misgivings. All our doubts will vanish. through complete knowledge. God will give us knowledge. Knowledge is available. We just have to be fortunate to take shelter of God. We have to make that decision. I am going to accept the truth, wherever it comes from and however it comes, if we're sincere. That's the main requirement. If we're actually sincere and we want to know the truth and we make the efforts, as the Lord Buddha said, be zealous. We really have to be sincere and we have to make efforts. Then what will happen? All our misgivings, our doubts will be cleared, and we will get to complete knowledge, and we'll proceed straight on the path of liberation. So it is possible to become free from this illusion and delusion and disinformation that has totally infected and taken over the mass media of the world today. To see through all of that illusion, that disinformation, that intentionally, disinformation means intentionally, purposefully false information. So to see through all of that, we need to take shelter of Allah and eagerly and enthusiastically go forward seeking the path of truth, and we will achieve liberation. We will become free from the illusion. Hukum rizai chalna, by accepting the order of God, by surrendering, and we will get peace. And this is Islam. Real Islam means surrendering to God, to the hukum of God. It's interesting how we are seeing the Sri Guru Granth Sahib and the Bhagavad Gita here, and the Dhammapada also giving a similar instruction to enthusiastically take shelter of the Supreme. A'udhu billahi min al-Masih ad-Dajjal. Take shelter of God from the illusions, from the fitnas, from the false teachings of the Dajjal, of this satanic system that we see spreading more and more its tentacles in the world today. But don't worry, God is also present, and God is more powerful, and God is giving us the way out of this satanic illusion. Allahu Akbar. All right, I'm going to see if we have any comments or questions here. Ooh, we have a lot, it looks like. Oh, I should say Jummah Mubarak. Nadar Baloch says, Sir, my dear sir, how are you? I am okay, thank you. I actually had a sore throat this morning, but I gargled with warm salt water and it is better. Aisha Rafi says, Assalamu alaikum, sir. What is spiritualism? Do people choose spiritualism, or spiritualism chooses people? That's a very good question. We choose. We definitely always have freedom. At every moment we have freedom to choose spiritualism. Spiritualism simply means the way of God, the guidance of God, the path of God. Or we can choose the opposite, which is selfishness, laziness. So instead of being selfish or lazy, we need to enthusiastically pursue the truth. And we need to choose spiritualism. We have that choice at every moment. Of course, God chooses us also. Spiritualism chooses us, it's also true. But there has to be both. The mercy of God choosing us and our response, because God never forces himself on us. He always gives us free choice. So we also have to choose. Okay, let's see. Khadija Zahid says, Assalamu alaikum, Ali Muhammad Kartar Puri Sahib. Wa alaikum salam, Khadija Zahid ji. Nadar Baloch says, Sir, you are a good man. I don't know about that, but Zain Khan, sir, pardon my ignorance. Is it possible we human race is experiment of some high beings, ETs? In the Noah Ark story, they wipe out humans on Earth through flood because they made some mistakes on our experiment. Maybe they want to restart human race with some modification? Well, that's a very interesting question. And I think to a certain extent that's true. There are a lot of sources of information which talk about some extraterrestrial beings who are technologically more advanced than we are, who are performing genetic experiments on the human race. So I assume you've heard about those. But more important than whatever tinkering some high beings, extraterrestrials, they're not angelic, really. If they were angelic, they would not be doing that. They are not evil necessarily, but they're more like scientists, experimenters, and probably for their own purposes, but I don't know to what extent it may be altruistic that they are doing these sorts of experiments on humanity. But the really good ones, the really angelic beings, they don't do experiments. They are simply doing whatever they can to help us, to give us guidance. So maybe some people, some extraterrestrials, want to restart the human race with some modification. I don't know. Just like the story of Noah's Ark, where humanity was almost wiped out. That's because of mistakes of human beings. You say it's mistakes of their experiments. I don't know if it was their mistakes or our mistakes, maybe both. But certainly humanity made mistakes. Humanity was turning away from God and was becoming selfish, not making that choice which we have at every moment to choose God rather than selfish or satanic directions. So at that time, humanity was almost wiped out. Only Noah and his family survived. To restart the human race. So is that what's happening now? I don't think so. I don't think that the whole human race is going to be wiped out, except for a very tiny remnant. I think that the human race is being rectified. Undoubtedly, a lot of people are being wiped out, and it's possible with nuclear power and with laser weapons to wipe out huge populations of the earth. But I think that the restarting of the human race will be by spiritual knowledge. It will be by understanding, not by wiping out huge populations. But that is all under God's control. But we should do our part to try and spread love and knowledge. This will bring about what you seem to be talking about, to restart the human race with some modification. The modification we need is not so much genetic as it is spiritual. We need to become dedicated to truth and love, to justice and to kindness and serving each other. And we can do that. That's our freedom. We have freedom. At every moment we have the freedom to make this choice. So we can do it. Let's do it. Let's love each other instead of fighting with each other. Okay, thank you all very, very much. Let us continue this. I will continue doing this as long as I can. Some mornings it may have to be a very short class. If I get a job and have to go teach early in the morning, then I will still give a short class starting at 7 a.m., inshallah. So I hope to do this every morning at 7 a.m. in California, which is 8 p.m. in Pakistan. I hope to see you all again tomorrow. Tomorrow will be an Urdu chat. Every Saturday I do the chat in Urdu. Allah Hafiz. May God protect us all.